Questions, Counsel?
No questions, Judge.
Thank you, sir. You may step out.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Who's next in the courtroom?
Well, Your Honor, I think the state has a motion for cause. I think that was one of the examples you gave to the jury was prepaid surrenders.
I mean, no objection, Judge. I think that's directly what they were told.
On the motion of the state, no objection. Anyone struck for cause? (92) indicates knowledge of the case. Yes, ma'am. If you'd have a seat, they're going to ask you a few questions. I ask you to speak up in a strong voice so they can hear you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
You've indicated yesterday that you have learned something about this case, either from media or from conversation with other people. Is that correct?
I read about it in the newspaper, yes.
Was that recently or closer to the time?
From the very beginning.
Okay.
Until Sunday.
All right. You recall the statement, the summary that Judge Battles gave the jury yesterday about this case?
Yes.
Can you tell us everything that you'd learned from your review of the media, whether it be print or broadcast, about this case that was not included in Judge Battles' summary?
You mean what I know about the case from having read the newspapers?
Yes,
and all?
ma'am.
Basically, it's the murder of the son in the car, and the daughter, I believe, was doing homework at the computer. And then the mother was found out by the pool, as I understand, after the fact.
Did you see any photography or videos?
Yes, sir.
What do you recall about those?
When they were leading her out initially after being arrested.
Did you form any opinion or draw any conclusions or have any impressions about the defendant's guilt or innocence or her state of mind as a result of seeing her in those images?
I can't deny that I have formed an opinion. That's correct. I mean, it's natural to have an opinion, yes.
And that's fair enough, and the law says you can always have an opinion.
Yes, sir.
All right, that acknowledges that it's natural for that. What was your opinion that you drew, or conclusion or impression as a result of what you saw and read?
My first impression when I saw her was that she certainly seemed to be out of it from what she had done. Okay, that she certainly seemed to not have a normal look about herself.
Okay. Did that impression or opinion change in any regards?
Yes, I think it has. I think I don't have the same distinct feelings that I did before.
Okay. What you refer to as distinct feelings, did they also touch upon her guilt or innocence?
Well, let's put it this way, with Sunday's paper especially, in the discussion of the plea of insanity.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's whether or not she knew what she was doing was wrong at the time that she did it, and her state of mind, was it real, was it not real, that sort of thing.
Okay, and how did your opinions evolve or change, or how were they affected by what you read in Saturday's paper?
Well, as I was thinking back on all of what I did see, my first reaction was that she was completely out of it as it appeared initially. But then as some of the comments that I read later, It almost sounded like she was premeditated. She knew what she was doing, and she knew that it was a deliberate act that what she was doing. So I can't tell you if I would say one way or the other at this point.
All right. Is it fair to say that as a result of information you've received, at times you've had contradictory impressions concerning guilt or innocence or culpability?
Possibly, yes. Yes.
Okay, well,
I know, okay. My first reaction was, of course, Mom, guilty. Okay, because she did it. There's no question that was done. My second reaction was when I saw her appearance initially was that, there's something not right there, but the verbal comments, the discussions that I had read between her and the police afterwards, the things that were reported, she gave answers that would make me believe that she knew what she was doing. So as it evolved, I changed my opinion.
Let me ask you about the reporting that you saw about the answers that she reportedly gave to police. Mm-hmm. What do you recall? How was that reported?
Okay, well, the one thing that I remember them saying was that, and if my memory serves me right, was that she did it because they were mouthy, that she'd had enough, So to me, that means she had formulated an opinion on her children, and she deliberately had enough, and this was her decision to do what she did.
All right, ma'am, the law says that the jury's starting point has to be innocent, the presumption of innocence. Mm-hmm. And it's okay for any juror to come to court with opinions or impressions as long as they can set those aside and do two important things. And the two things are kind of tied together. The first is give the defendant a starting point of innocence, the presumption of innocence, that she is presumed to be innocent, and then the second part is the state has to prove her guilt. That presumption of innocence stays with the defendant up until the time that the state of Florida proves her guilt to the jury's satisfaction beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt by evidence presented in court. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've been exposed to quite a bit of the information as reported and recounted in the press. Do you believe that you'd be able to set aside any opinions or impressions that you had felt throughout the evolution of your exposure to this information?
I can't tell you without any shadow of a doubt that I could do that.
Okay.
Because my opinion's deep, and so I don't know that answer.
Okay.
Would I listen? Of course. Would I weigh it? Of course. But I can't say that I could totally block out anything prior to this day.
Okay. And when we talk about blocking out, what we're talking about is not ignoring what you heard necessarily, because if evidence is presented in court that's consistent with what you've heard, then you can consider what's presented in court. But if there's something that was presented out there in the media or newspapers that's not presented in court, the law says that cannot factor into your deliberations. Do you see the distinction I'm trying to draw?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you think you'd be able to do that?
I would only do the best that I can say, yes.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Question, sir?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you.
If I understand you correctly, you've had this evolving opinion. Initially, you felt, based on the newspaper articles that you read, that Ms. Schenecker was guilty. Then you felt that perhaps there was more there to it that you didn't understand. And then more recently, you now are going back to the idea of guilty. Would that be a fair assessment of what you had said earlier?
Yes, but let me ask, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay. Guilty. Are we, I don't know what the trial is for. In that, is it guilty of the killing of the two children? Or is it where she's pleading not guilty, or is it not guilty due to the plea of insanity? That's what I want. I don't know what we're here for. I didn't think there was a question in regards to guilty of the act. I thought it was the question of guilty of the circumstances, or her mental state.
Well, at this stage of the proceedings, what we're trying to fathom is you, as well as other potential jurors, what you have learned in the past that gives you a preconceived idea of the goings-on here in the trial. And that's what we're trying to ask you about this afternoon. If somebody is seated to be a juror in this case, then certainly they're going to be given a chance to hear evidence. And that's what has been dating back to yesterday when the judge first spoke to the panel at large and said that. That's what we're looking for as potential jurors, that people can listen to the evidence. And the purpose of us speaking to you now is to find out if in the course of you reading newspaper articles or seeing television shows or talking with friends or whatever, you've already developed some idea, a well-conceived or well-formulated opinion about guilt or innocence that you carry with you to this day, to this minute. And that's the reason for the questioning that you've been exposed to up to this point. That's what I'm trying to make sure I understand. I don't know if I answered your question, but I'm interested in finding out if you have an opinion right now related to the guilt or innocence of Ms. Schenecker that you've brought with you to this proceeding.
Okay, yes, I would say I would have an opinion on the guilt or the innocence, correct.
All right, and then the next question I would ask you is that opinion that you hold strongly? Some people are strongly opinionated, some people are saying, well, I guess, that kind of thing. Or is that opinion that you hold strongly, or is that an opinion that you can set aside in order to listen to evidence that's presented to you if you're selected to be in this jury? And again, the only person who knows the answer to this is no right or wrong, and nobody's going to be critical one or the other. We're just asking for your honest opinion of what's inside you to be able to respond. Can you set aside any preconceived notion, any preconceived opinion, or can you not? And you're the only one that knows the answer to that.
And I don't know the answer to that. I would say I feel strongly about it, but that does not mean that if there was evidence that would change my mind, that it could not be changed. Based on what I know now, what I've read and seen, I have a strong opinion, correct. Could that opinion be changed by things that have not been introduced to me? Possibly.
And I take it that you'd look to evidence produced maybe by the defense to be able to show you otherwise. Would that be a fair way of putting it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have no other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. You can step out. She's asking to close.
Judge, I move to strike juror number 92 for cause.
No objection. No objection. 92 is struck for cause. Number 93 indicates some knowledge of the case. Have a seat, sir. They're going to ask you a few questions. I'd ask you to respond in a very strong voice so you can be heard up here, okay?
Okay.
Stay.
Good afternoon, sir. Yesterday you indicated to us that you had learned something about this case from some source outside the court. Is that right?
Yes.
Was that talking to folks, or was that from the media?
Well, I live in New Tampa, so it was big news when it happened, so I'd known of the incident, and it's been on the radio a lot last week on some of the morning shows. They were playing some audio from something that was obtained shortly after the arrest.
Okay. Did you read anything in the newspaper about the case?
Not recently, no, but at the time that it happened, I'd known of the incident.
Okay. And did you see broadcast news at the time of the incident?
2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Anything recently that you saw on TV or?
No, just the morning news.
The morning news on television?
I listen to 970 in the morning if I'm going into work, and they were talking about it quite a bit last week.
Okay. Have you formed any fixed or definite opinion as a result of that concerning the defendant's guilt or innocence?
Yeah, I have opinions of it, yeah.
Okay, and you're entitled to have opinions. That's just natural from what you see and hear on the TV and radio. But let me ask you a few more questions, if I may.
Okay.
The law says that the starting point for the jury has to be that the defendant is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And the state has to prove that guilt beyond a reasonable doubt by evidence produced in court. So that kind of combines two concepts. The first one is her presumption of innocence, the defendant's presumption of innocence. That's got to be the starting point for the jury. The jurors can come into court having ideas or impressions like we always do from what we hear, but once we get into court and get into that deciding, listening and deciding posture, it has to be a clean slate for the defendant. Do you understand that?
I do. I understand that.
Do you think you can do that?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. What is your opinion or impression as to her guilt or innocence, sir?
Well, from what I remembered reading and what I heard last week, I mean, there's obviously no doubt that the event took place. I have a 6-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. It's a little too close to home for me. I don't really, I don't think I could give her what she believes to be fair, trial.
Have you an opinion as to whether she's guilty or not?
It's my opinion, that based on what I've seen in the past and read about the case, at the time, I live in New Tampa. I live over the bridge blocks away. It was
Close to home, literally.
very close to home.
Yeah.
That's where I form my opinion.
Okay, sir, and I'm trying to badge you. I'm pretty sure I know what your opinion is, but you need to tell me whether it's an opinion that you think she's guilty or not guilty.
I believe guilty.
Okay, all right. That's what I took from that, but
Okay.
you always get in trouble when you assume. You always get in trouble when you assume something.
Yeah. Oh no, I understand.
As a result of that, do you think that would affect your ability to serve as a fair and impartial juror in this case?
It would affect my ability.
Thank you, sir. Nothing further.
Questions?
No, Judge.
Thank you, sir. May step up. He's asking court.
Judge, I move to strike juror number 93 for cause.
No objection.
93 is struck for cause. Motion of the defense without objection. 94 indicates hardship. Yes, ma'am, you can have a seat. They're going to ask you a few questions. I ask that you respond with a strong voice, okay, so we can hear you up here. State your name.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ma'am. Yesterday, you indicated that service on the jury for 3 weeks would cause a hardship. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and explain to me, please, what type of hardship it would present.
Well, it's not really a hardship. I just work, so I didn't want it to interfere with my work.
Okay. What type of work do you do, ma'am?
I do customer service.
At One Touch Direct?
Yes, sir.
What type of business is that, ma'am?
It's Verizon.
Okay. Would you be paid for the time you were on jury service?
I don't even know.
Okay. Is that something you could find out with a phone call?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. And if it was determined that you could be paid for the time you were on jury service, would that eliminate or remove the hardship?
Yes.
Okay. Any other hardship concern that you have other than whether you would be paid for your service?
No.
Okay. Bless you. Let me ask you, do you support yourself
Yes.
financially? Do you support any other folks other than yourself?
No.
Is work your only source of income?
Yes.
Do you have any savings or investments or anything like that?
No.
Okay. And do you live alone?
No.
Okay. Are you responsible for rent or mortgage?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry for being personal, but I just need to know about what type of financial burden it might create for you if you were selected as a juror and your work did not pay for you.
Well, I have a car insurance.
Okay.
I mean, just finding out my hair. I don't know. It's not really no bill. Maybe a phone bill. I don't have no bill.
I can't sympathize with your hair costs. I'm sorry. Do you think you could make inquiry, call your boss about whether or not you'd get paid? Verizon's a large company. Some of these large companies do. Would that be something you'd be willing to do?
I guess I can call. You want me to call now?
Well, I think we'd like you to, not right from court, not here, but perhaps this afternoon if you could.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you, ma'am. I don't have any further questions.
I have no questions, Judge.
Ma'am, we'll ask you to step out. Why don't you go ahead and see if you can make that call. We'll let you step out. $95 indicates hardship and knowledge. Yes, ma'am, you can have a seat. They're going to ask you a few questions. I'd ask that you respond in a strong voice so we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Counselor.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Yesterday afternoon, you indicated the service on the jury for 3 weeks might present a hardship to you. Could you explain, please?
Certainly. Since July of last year, I've been looking for a new job out of state. Yesterday, I was given an offer. I accepted the offer. It is a promotion. It is additional money, and I need to move my family. My first date of employment would be May 22nd.
And is this new position out of state?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you say your first day of employment would be May 22nd,
That's correct.
which if you were not to have jury service, what would your plan on be concerning your move as far as the date of your move? Do you know?
I have a number of issues to take care of for the bank that I'll be going to. I work for a bank, like drug screening, fingerprinting. There's some online testing and that kind of thing that I need to take care of. Unfortunately, those things have to be done during business hours, during court hours.
Okay, I'm asking more along the lines of the actual physical move.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
If this wasn't, you weren't involved in this jury selection process, what would your plan be as far as when you would intend to physically move?
Now,
Oh, I see.
I will be giving my current employer 2 weeks' notice as soon as I go back to my office.
Okay.
So my plan is to pack and to be in another state by May 22nd.
And if we throw a wrench in those plans by selecting you as a juror, would that affect your ability to listen to the evidence and to focus on the evidence?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It certainly would create some planning and some issues, but
It sounds like it.
I don't think it would cause me not to be able to concentrate on the case.
And I'm not minimizing the difficulties it would create. The online tests and the things that you've spoken about, is that something that has to be done during the business hours during the week?
I have an appointment tomorrow at 3 p.m. for fingerprinting and drug screening.
Okay.
That's really the wrench, if you will,
I
in
understand.
the schedule.
You've also indicated that you'd heard something about this case or learned something about this case outside of the courtroom before you got here. Tell us about that. What did you learn and from what source?
I currently work in the Land O'Lakes area. I live in Lutz. It was, pretty much front page news when it occurred. It's been quite some time, but certainly I heard the news and I saw the papers.
What do you recall hearing about the reporting of the facts or details of the investigation or the incident?
The incident.
Okay. And tell us what you remember.
I remember that there was 2 deaths as a result of a person using a weapon in the New Tampa area. And that person was the mother of the 2 who were killed.
Did you recall seeing any still photography or video images of the defendant?
Only pictures of the children.
Okay. If you're selected as a juror, you're required to the starting point would be that the defendant is innocent. That's the presumption of innocence.
Right.
Do you understand that concept, ma'am?
Yes.
Regardless of what you've heard or seen in the past, would you be able to give Ms. Schenecker that presumption of innocence?
Yes.
Do you have any opinions or impressions, conclusions about Ms. Schenecker's guilt or innocence as you sit there?
No.
Okay. Would you, it's the burden of the state to prove the defendant's guilt beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. Would you hold the state to that burden?
Yes.
Is there anything about what you heard or saw in the media that would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror?
No.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. No further questions. 1 second, please.
Sir?
Judge, I have no questions.
Thank you, ma'am. You may
Thank
step
you.
out.
Thank you.
She's next in the court.
Judge, I have no motion at this time.
I do.
I think it's unrealistic to expect her to serve without distraction, giving the uprooting of her life.
discretion. I have no comment, Judge, no objection.
Without objection. All right. And I think that's a fair assessment. Without objection, 95 struck for cause. 96 indicates hardship and knowledge. Yes, ma'am, have a seat. They're going to ask you just a few questions, and I'd ask you to respond in a real strong voice, okay?
Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Yesterday, you indicated that service on the jury would cause you some hardship. Could you explain that for us, please?
Yes, I have my mother that is being tested this morning for heart blockage. And my father has Parkinson's, so I have a flight scheduled for Thursday morning to go and help him.
Okay, obviously your parents live somewhere other than Tampa, is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Where is that, ma'am?
Panama City, Panama.
Okay. I'm sorry for intruding into your personal affairs, but have you prepaid for that flight?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I copy it on my ticket.
Okay. And how long is your planned trip to be?
For now, about 11 days.
Okay. I take it from what you've described that due to your father's condition, he's unable to care for your mother in her current situation, is that correct?
That's correct. He needs assistance with his daily living activities. So somebody has to assist him for bathing, eating, everything else.
Okay. Let me move on to the other subject. You've indicated that you've learned something about this case from some source outside the courtroom, is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell us what you've heard and learned?
Well, when it first happened, I work at my dealer Force Bay.
In what capacity?
I work at a human resources program specialist and also a military spouse. My husband is a Special Forces colonel. So when the news came out, of course, I was going to follow. And the same with all my co-workers. So we have many discussions that follow the case on the news. And my husband have worked with Mr. Parker of Schenecker too.
Okay. As a result of all that, have you formed any opinions or impressions about the defendant's guilt or innocence?
Yes.
What is the opinion that you hold?
I think she's probably guilty.
Okay. Is that an opinion that would affect your ability to serve as a fair and impartial juror?
I think that I'll be biased.
Okay. Thank you for your candor, ma'am. Nothing further.
Any questions?
No question, Judge.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step. Panel members next to the courtroom.
Statement moves to call on motion.
No objection, Judge.
96 is struck for cause of the motion to state without objection from the defendant. 97 indicates hardship and knowledge.
Seat in front row, in front of the second row.
Yes, ma'am, they're going to ask a few questions. I ask you to speak up in a very strong voice so we can hear you up here. Okay? Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Yesterday, you indicated that service on the jury for the next 3 weeks would cause some type of hardship. Could you explain for us?
Besides from being away from my job, I'm currently backing up my manager, and I just got promoted to that position. She just left on vacation for 3 weeks. She got married on Friday. But besides that, I am personally going through a little stress in my family, in my household.
Okay.
It has to do with my son. And I don't think I'll be in the frame of mind to make any decisions on the case.
All right, excuse me for intruding, but I need to follow up with a few questions.
Okay.
Would jury service, would you be paid for the time you were serving on a jury if you were selected?
I'm not sure of that.
Okay, is that something?
I'm not. I've never been away for more than a day. I know they cover a day, but I'm not sure if my company does.
Okay, you work for the bank?
JP Morgan.
Okay, is that something that perhaps you could determine if necessary? You could by calling or contacting somebody?
Yeah, I can try.
Okay, all right. If you were to be selected on the jury and you were paid by your employer, are there other people in the bank that could fill in and cover for you and for your boss?
Right now we're short of staff.
Okay.
The part of the department was outsourced to India, and they're trying to fill in for, the staff that we have here, but they're not quite on board as yet.
Okay.
So it's very like today I missed a very important meeting. We were actually going to get a new client, Central Bank of Nigeria, and there was a presentation that I had to do, but I couldn't make it. So that alone,
All right, ma'am. Your son's situation, which is causing you stress, is that a health situation or a legal situation or school or?
Everything in his whole life. His youthful life after high school was actually taken away from him because he was in the wrong place, wrong time. Teenagers, they think they always know more than you. And he picked up a felony with some friends. Okay. So right now he's on probation, and I'm working with him, trying to give him encouragement. We're trying to get him back into school. I just did a FAFSA application for him, and just encouraging him with life on the whole. And the thing is, he made it worse by leaving the state last year. So he's back now, and his probation starts all over again.
Okay.
So it's rough to deal. He lost his friends. We don't have family here. It's just his parents he has to depend on. And sometimes we get on his nerves, He thinks we want to rule his life, but we just try to steer him in the right direction. He's my only son, and I want to see the best for him.
Of course, of course. If you were selected to serve on this jury, would your concerns about work and your son affect your ability to serve and give the case your full attention?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that those concerns would distract you from your ability to follow the evidence and give the state a fair trial and the defense a fair trial?
Yes, especially my son's situation.
Okay.
I have a courtroom phobia as it is right now with what I went through with him.
I'm sorry, I did not understand you.
I said I currently have a phobia for the courtroom.
Oh, I see.
Having been through all that with him. It's like a roller coaster.
I understand. Was that?
Because if he violates, he can be put in jail.
I understand.
And having to deal with that is both stressful on me and his dad.
And last question, ma'am, was his situation, did that arise here or out of state?
Here in Florida, right after he graduated high school.
I got you. Okay, thank you, ma'am. 1 second, please. I don't know if Mr. Trainer may have some questions.
Judge, I don't have any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. You can step out.
Thank you.
Would she list another knowledge of the case as well?
Yes.
Okay, good.
If you wish to bring her back, okay.
No, Judge, I still got a motion. I don't know if we want to fire anyone else. I have a motion to strike the purely 97 and 96 for cause. To the 97 for cause.
97.
No objection.
97 struck for cause, motion to dispense without objection. Stay. 99 indicates hardship and knowledge. Now, see, they're going to ask you a few questions. I'd ask you to respond in a very strong voice so we can hear you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
You're a soft-spoken lady.
Yes.
Please remember, this lady here is taking down everything that's spoken. That's why we asked you to speak up, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's perfect. Yesterday, you indicated that you had some type of hardship that would be caused by your service on a jury for 3 weeks. Could you tell us about that, please?
Yes, I get paid for 5 days, and after that I will not get paid by my job. I have 2 small children at home, and my husband works varied hours as a assistant meat department manager at Publix. So it's just him and I. We don't have a lot of support here.
All right. Your children are very young.
20 months and 4 years old.
Okay. And do you have child care for them during the day when you work?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have transportation to and from child care for them if
Yes,
you were to be selected to serve?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Childcare does close at 6, and it's off of Big Bend Road in
Way south.
Gibsonton.
Okay.
So,
Do you have any family that could support you in the management of your children's transportation and that kind of thing?
not locally, no, but if I had to make it work, I'm sure I could figure out something.
Okay. We're not minimizing
Right.
the hardship that missing perhaps 2 weeks of pay would be. What could you explain, and this is necessarily an intrusive question, but could you explain how that, if you went without the 2 weeks of pay, how exactly that would affect your family and your family life?
Well, I am the one that makes the money in the family, and so missing those 2 weeks would be missing out on that pay, and at this point we are living paycheck to paycheck. There's not much extra at the end. So.
Is there any other support or source of income that you might have, whether it be family or investments or savings or anything like that?
Not at this point. But
Okay, all right. Let me ask you also, you mentioned that you'd learned something about this case from some other source outside the court before yesterday, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And what source was that from?
I've seen it on the news.
Was that recently or about the time this happened?
About the time that it happened. I didn't watch a lot of it. I just saw it come on.
Okay. What do you recall seeing reported about the case?
That a mother had killed her 2 teenage children, and they weren't quite sure of the cause. And at that time, I did not wish to watch anymore.
Have you seen anything recently in the news about this?
No, sir.
Okay. Juries are required by law to presume a person accused of a crime to be innocent. That's the starting point.
Yes.
What that means is, regardless of what you may have heard in the past, you'd have to set that aside if you were selected, and you would have to say, right now, because I have not heard any evidence, I presume Ms. Schenecker to be innocent. Do you understand that?
Yes,
Is that something you could do?
yes,
Despite what you saw a few years ago on the news?
yes,
Is there any doubt in your mind?
no,
Have you formed any kind of fixed or definite opinion about the defendant's guilt or innocence?
no,
In the news that you saw, did you see any type of still photographic image or any video that showed the defendant?
yes.
Describe for us what you saw, please.
I remember getting into some type of van or vehicle dressed in prison
Okay.
attire.
Did you draw any conclusion or opinion about either Ms. Schenecker's guilt or innocence or her state of mind or about the case as a result of seeing those images?
No,
Okay. Did you have an impression, a first gut reaction?
she looked distraught.
Okay. All right. Is that an image that you could set aside if you were selected as a juror in this case?
I don't know.
Okay. And would that affect your ability to serve as a fair and impartial juror, the image that you recall of Ms. Schenecker?
No,
Okay. Could you hold the state of Florida to its burden of proving Ms. Schenecker's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt by evidence in court?
yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I don't know
Just
if
a moment.
Mr. Trainer may have some questions.
Questions, Mr. Trent?
Judge, I don't have any questions for this witness or juror.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step out. Who's exiting the courtroom?
Judge, I don't have a motion.
Judge, I do. She said the hardship, the paycheck to paycheck. They don't have any savings or anything else.
We'll hear from the defense.
Judge, I have no objection. She did say that.
State motion without objection over to as to number 99 for cause. Number 100 indicates hardship. Yes, we can have a seat. They're going to ask you a few questions. I ask you to respond in a strong voice, okay?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. You've had 2 full days of the comfort of the Hillsborough County chairs, haven't you, sir?
That's good.
You've indicated yesterday that service on this jury would cause you hardship. Could you explain to us what that hardship would be, please?
Yes, for work, I work as a freelance video production person. And so my work comes in spurts. And currently I am booked starting Friday to work 5 days in Orlando on a convention. And then right after that I am booked for 8 days in Orlando again.
Okay.
So for me to cancel at this point would not be a good thing. They would not want to call me back again.
Okay. Let me ask you some follow-up questions, and I don't mean by any means to minimize the hardship that you've explained, but I've got to kind of fill out the record for us, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you the sole source of income for yourself?
Yes, I am.
Or do you have dependents that rely upon you financially?
Yes, I'm my wife and my mother-in-law who lives with us.
Okay. Is that the only source of income that you have, is your position as a freelance videographer?
No, my wife does have Social Security disability.
What type of financial strain would you, missing the work that you've described for the next 2.5 weeks, what could you describe what that would place upon you or your family?
I would have no income at all. If I don't work, I do not get paid.
Do you have any other source of income you could rely upon, whether it be family or investment or savings or anything that could supplement?
Most of my savings right now is in 401ks, which I can't touch yet. Okay. I do have some savings, yes.
I understand. If you were selected to serve on this jury, would missing those professional obligations and the financial hardship that you've described, would that affect your ability to focus and give your undivided attention to the witnesses or to the evidence that's presented?
I would say it would. I wouldn't be happy.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Mayor Clark,
I have no questions, Judge.
may step out. He's out of the room.
Because my concern would be simply that we can focus on what's going on, because we lose the handcuff from one over and another. So I can get that. Again, in the abundance of caution, no further comment on the destructive cause during over 100.
Without objection, on defense motion on under destructive cause. Councilors, we want to call number 94 back in. I believe that is that one outstanding that we have as far as doing some checking.
Yes, Judge, it is.
Yes.
We also have number 86 as well, and he also informed me that he had made a phone call.
Okay, just a moment.
Mr. Cigarette.
That's true, I've got a note there. Just a minute.
Oh, yeah, that's the graveyard.
Okay, call in number 86 first.
Graveyard.
Yes, sir. I believe you were going to make a phone call and provide some information about whether you're compensated during your service. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what did you find out?
Yes, they will compensate me.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the state?
No, sir.
From the defense?
No, Judge.
Thank you, sir. You may step out.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Number 94. Yes, ma'am. You can have a seat now. You were going to make a phone call and check and see if you were going to be compensated while you're here serving. Did you make that call?
Yes, they told me no.
No? They compensate for any portion of it?
No, sir.
Okay, any questions from the staff?
Ma'am, knowing that you're not going to get paid, how would that affect your ability to serve as a fair and impartial juror?
It would affect me because I'd be at work.
And how would it affect you?
You mean like financial-wise?
Would it affect your ability to concentrate or on the evidence or the trial?
No,
Okay.
but I wouldn't want to do it
Okay.
because knowing that I'm not getting paid like on a job, but it wouldn't affect my thinking.
All right. Would it affect your willingness or to give the state or the defendant a fair trial?
No.
We know that you'd rather be at work and rather be getting paid, but what we'd like to know is whether you think in any fashion that you're not getting paid for work will affect your ability to serve as a juror.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Questions, sir?
No questions, Judge.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step up. Panel members, exit the courtroom.
No motion, Judge.
Nothing from the state.
Okay. All right, counsel, I'm aware everyone's been sitting here for a while. I'm going to do a couple of things. One, we're going to go ahead at the appropriate time to give the court staff and everyone this will be about a 20-minute break. A few extra minutes here because one of the things I'd like you to do is take just a moment to coordinate with the clerk, make sure that of the initial 100 that this is in fact a mirror copy of what we understand to be those who remain available for further voir dire. Mark that one ahead. Clerk, he has his copy. That should only take a moment. Okay?
Yes, sir.
We'll take about a 20-minute break. Then we'll come back and discuss